the people. No, sorry, against Article 50. Well, at least I think it's the same thing. Labour MPs Rachel Maskell and Dawn Butler have resigned today from the Shadow Cabinet, and they will vote against this bill. In PMQs earlier today, our Prime Minister said the Brexit White Paper will be published tomorrow, so expect more rows over that, because I don't expect them to give absolute details of what our renegotiation strategy is going to be. I'm guessing it'll be a confirmation of the rather bold speech he gave a couple of weeks ago. We'll see. Oh, and our former ambassador to the European Union, the wonderful, magnificent Sir Ivan Rogers, today told in a committee of MPs that the bill for leaving the European Union could be £60 billion. Now, quite where he gets that from and how we should respond to that, I'm not so sure that before the watershed I can help you with. But the question I'm asking you tonight is David Davis right? Let's just listen to what he said yesterday in the House of Commons.
It's not a bill about whether the UK should leave the European Union or indeed how it should do so. It is simply about Parliament empowering the government to implement a decision already made, a point of no return already passed. We asked the people of the UK if they wanted to leave the European Union. They decided they did. So at the core of this bill lies a very simple question. Do we trust the people or not?
Yeah. Is David Davis right? Have we passed the point of no return? And also, whilst we're waiting for this result, another question, a subset of that question. I've been here today in Brussels, the European Union's first full public response to Donald Trump becoming president and putting in place his temporary, some say ban, others say suspension, of people from 7 countries. I was there in the thick of it today, and I wonder, given the anger that I faced in this place today, has actually not just Britain passed the point of no return in terms of its membership of the EU, has the European Union itself now passed the point of no return? To get involved, call me please on 0345 60 60 973, text me at 84850, and you can tweet me on @LBC, not forgetting the hashtag Farage on LBC. And I want to give you perhaps a flavour of what happened here in Brussels today.
And pure discrimination in a more broader approach, but because it's not only about this religious ban. It's about, fueling populism and nationalism for the moment, what the Trump administration is doing. And that's not only by appointing Mr. Farage as his spokesman here in the plenary, but it's also by having the idea to designate Malloch as the ambassador. And more important, let's be aware of that, Steve Bannon, member now of the National Security Council of the United States of America, a man who is openly saying we want a worldwide right-wing movement to get rid of the European Union.
It is the unelected Commission that have the sole right to propose legislation. If I'm wrong in saying that, you can throw me out of this Parliament right here, right now.
Mr. Farage, I am just asking you to be a little bit more respectful, please.
Oh, I'll be respectful, all right, and perhaps you will be too, for the right of the leader of a political party that won the European elections in the United Kingdom in 2014. Perhaps what we need to do is to be a little bit more constructive. All of us here say we're Democrats. Well, here's a chance to prove it. Let us invite President Trump to come here to this European Parliament. Well, I have to say that particular suggestion went down like a lead balloon. As you can see, once again, I've been playing happy families here in the European Parliament. But I don't think, over the years, I've known people attack me. I've known people disagree with me. Never have I seen quite such collective fear. You see, Brexit was bad news for the European project. They now view Donald Trump as an absolute nightmare. And they're already trying to ban, to bar, to not even allow in the building Professor Ted Malloch, who we had on the Nigel Farage show last week, who it said is going to become Trump's ambassador. I think that we're going to get the result of this Brexit bill soon, and we'll see that we have passed the point of no return in terms of Britain's membership. But I think this project has now passed the point of no return. Please tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me that Brexit can be reversed. Tell me that the European Union has a bright, shiny future. And I'm going to go to Mark in Rugby and ask him what he thinks. Mark, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. How you doing?
I'm all right. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I've got concerns with all these amendments that the parties are currently lining up. That we may end up still getting a weakened deal and not the Brexit that we actually voted for.
Well, Mark, you're quite right. We've got this vote tonight, and I'm not sure whether listeners will be pleased to hear or appalled to hear that next week this debate will carry on as a number of amendments get debated and voted on in the House of Commons. A lot, I'm guessing, Mark, will depend on how big the outright, majority is for pushing Article 50 through. I think it's, I could be wrong, I think it's unlikely that we'll get amendments that will seriously hold up or delay Brexit, delay the triggering of Article 50 in any way in the House of Commons. I do wonder, in a few weeks' time, when it gets to the House of Lords, whether that might pose a bigger problem. But Mark, surely, if this vote goes through okay tonight, surely we're pretty much on our way, aren't we?
Well, the Remainers will always try to stop it, and the corrupt elite of this world, the likes of Branson and Tony Blair, they're going to do their damnedest to stop it still, I dare say. But the point is, we should have never, ever been in this position in the first place. Theresa May was tasked with getting us out of the European Union, and to be fair, she's let us down and the party, because the Prime Minister's primary functions are to serve the majority of the people as best as he can, which is obviously from the result of the referendum, and to ensure that her party stays in power. Now, what would have been the best way to ensure that her party actually stayed in power to activate Article 50 straight away, or pretty much straight away?
Oh, yeah. Well, Mark, she did that, didn't she? She did that. She did that. That led to us going to the High Court, then going to the Supreme Court, and the fact that we were told explicitly, if you remember, by that leaflet that David Cameron put through every one of our doors, which I enjoyed putting back through his door in number 10. But we were told, it's your decision. You decide, we'll respect it. That wasn't good enough, and that's why we're going through this vote in the House of Commons. And I think we're expecting a result pretty shortly. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Matthew in Heathrow. Matthew, have we passed the point of no return in terms of our membership of this union?
Well, hi, Nigel. Basically, I don't think we're past the point of no return. I think it's too early for the Article 50. They haven't done the white paper. I'm a Remainer, and except, we've got to leave, and I want to try to make sure we get the best deal for everyone. And I think it's just too early because, if it's going to take 2 years for of the negotiations, we know they're not going to give us another deal. There's going to be another election. So, it's going to just drag out. So I think we should see the white paper. All the political parties should work together as a team to try to... So I shouldn't... So really, as a leaver, I shouldn't be too complacent. That's your message, really, isn't it? I think everyone's got to work together and get the right plan first, because, and I see you've had a lively day in Brussels today. I have. Didn't realise you... Are you the spokesman for Mr. Trump, President?
Well, I've been promoted. I'm told, that now I'm speaking for the American president. Listen, I've got to go because we are getting results read out now in the House of Commons. The SNP will be putting forward amendments to block the bill, but we do have a clear vote. Do we have a clear vote? We don't have a clear vote. Right, we don't yet have a result. We're expecting it imminently. While we wait, we'll go to Chris in Blackheath. Chris, I think probably when we get this result, we will have passed the point of no return, albeit there may be a few delaying tactics. Do you agree?
No, I hope we don't. We haven't passed the point of no return. And I think you, right, Nigel Farage, you're a carpetbagger. You peddle your evilness all over the world. Then you won't, and you're not even a leaver. You're a Remainer, because you remain.
I'm sorry. You're a
Remainer. You are a Remainer. You remain peddling your evil message all over the world.
Chris,
No,
Chris, I tell you what, mate. I've been called lots of things over the years, and I will accept almost all of them, rude ones and not so rude ones. But to call me a Remainer, I mean, this cuts me to the quick. Chris, how can you think I'm a Remainer?
What was her name? What was the name of the woman from Europe that scorned you all those years ago, that turned you against everybody apart from people that are born in the UK? You are an evil person, my friend, and you one day...
Right. And do you think that that applies to the British public? 52% of them. Are they evil too? Oh, he's gone. We've lost him. Well, never mind. It wasn't actually necessarily all that constructive. All I would say is, in all the years I've been inside this Parliament, I have never seen such contempt for the rules of the Parliament. They allowed a Labour MEP to sit behind me holding up a sign. They allowed members of the public gallery to shout abuse at me. And when I said the fact that the European Commission were unelected, I was told to show more respect. Do you know why? Because they're scared. It's done for. They know this project's finished because the other people in Europe are beginning to feel a bit like the Brits. Right now, you're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively here on LBC. It's 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Some hospitals are not bothering to reclaim any money from overseas visitors. According to a report by MPs, British patients were losing out because other parts of the health service were not doing enough to recoup costs. Well, Helen Stokes-Lampard chairs the Royal College of GPs and joins me now.
It's a drop in the ocean compared to the scale of the NHS and the scale of underfunding that we face.
No, my listeners just won't buy that, Doctor. Why can't we be like the United States? The minute you go to an emergency room, you either show that you've got insurance or you give a credit card. How hard would that be, Doctor?
We have an NHS that's free at the point of need, and so we're set up differently.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
With Hampton by Hilton, from a great night's sleep to the perfect breakfast included.
Here's another true story from Aldermartin, Baines and Cuthbert. When fire tore through a residential London development in 2015, the local health and safety executive were quickly on the scene. Fortunately, ABC had all the right health and safety paperwork and certificates, and to the great relief of the building's owners, were able to prove there was no fault. No fuss, no hassle. For block management, ABC Estates will give your story an ending that'll make you as happy as Larry. Find out more at abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
JustATrader.com.
Washing machine on the blink? No problem. Just shower your clothes on. Job done. And you'll smell like coconut cream. Or get yourself on trustatrader.com and find the right person to do the job for you. Pop in your postcode and the trade you need, then you can choose from loads of tried and tested tradespeople in your area. Reviewed, reputable, right good tradespeople. Visit trustatrader.com.
JustATrader.com.
I'd had a denture from being 14 to 55. One day, I saw Darwood and Tanner had advertised teeth in an hour. It was a couple of weeks actually before I plucked up the courage to ring. I had 4 or 5 appointments before the actual operation, and then the operation itself, and it was done in an hour. It has changed my life, really, it has. Don't hesitate, go to Darwood and Tanner.
Call 020 7935 8088 or visit whenyousmile.com.
What if someone else did all the donkey work to find out if you had PPI for free? Well, that's exactly what we do here at the Claims Guys. Just text EASY to 60777 and we'll do the digging to discover if you ever had PPI added to one of your accounts. After that, you can pursue the claim yourself or ask us to do it for you. It's your choice. But if you don't text EASY to 60777, you'll never know. The Claims Guys, the PPI people.
The Claims Guys.
A big night out. A lumpy bed. There are so many things that can keep us awake. But if you can't sleep because you're worried about paying the bills, we can help. Capitalise provides free, impartial and confidential face-to-face support to help people in trouble manage their debt. Find out more at capitalise.org.uk.
What is the longest tube on the London Underground? What is the collective name for a group of bears? What did Queen Victoria ban from her own funeral?
If you know, you have exceptional general knowledge. But at Hiscox, our insurance experts have chosen small business as their specialist subject. That's why more than 200,000 UK businesses rely on us to help provide the right cover. Hiscox, business insurance for the small and the brave.
Oh, and in case you were wondering, A, the central line, B, a sleuth of bears, C, the colour black.
This is LBC, live from Brussels, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
As we speak, our MPs are voting in the House of Commons, and they voted so far on an SNP amendment which was to block the bill outright. 100 members of Parliament supported that. 336 members of Parliament opposed that, and perhaps that is an indication of how the Article 50 vote itself is going to go, and we'll have a full result on that within the next 10 to 15 minutes. And the question I'm asking, assuming that the votes on this amendment point the way for the government getting a clear majority and honouring the will of the people in that referendum, the question I'm asking is, has Britain's membership of the European Union, will it tonight have passed that point of no return? And given the anger, indeed hatred even, that I've seen here in Brussels today, has the European Union project itself now passed the point of no return? And I wonder what Simon in Harwich thinks of that proposition.
Thank you, Nigel. Lovely to be on the show. Thank you. I'm a Labour councillor myself, and I actually voted to come out of the European Union. I truly think once Article 50 and the bill's gone past, I think we are on the point of no return. And it will be good as well, because I believe passionately, as a trade unionist as well, I think democracy and the will of the people is vitally important to this country. If you ignore the will of the people, there'll be anarchy in the streets. I truly believe that. I think
Simon, tell me, I mean, what is it with your party that there are so many voices saying that actually we should ignore the will of the people and we have to stay members of the EU at all costs? What's happening to the Labour Party, Simon, who, of course, 40 years ago actually were the party that opposed membership of this club on the basis that we lose our democracy?
Well, as you know, Nigel, we are a broad church. Not a one...
Well, that's pretty broad, isn't it?
You've got many people, you've got hard left people, you've got centre left and moderates like yourself within the Labour Party as well. And then you've got momentum and all that lot, or militant momentum, whatever you want to double it, But yes, I think them people obviously have got a hidden agenda. I think they're trying to wreck the process when we're in.
Well,
and
I'm
Simon, really worried about it.
The one thing, Simon, that you and I both know from being involved in politics is the public do not vote en masse for parties that are split down the middle. And I put it to you, Labour is facing an existential crisis.
Oh, we're facing problems, there's no denying it as well. But, we can, if we work together and unite. Obviously, I know we're different backgrounds, different things, but I think one thing we can agree on is that we want to come out of this corrupt European Union. My granddads didn't fight for a federal Europe during the Second World War, sir. They fought for freedom and for king of country at the time. Very, very different.
Simon,
they'll be turning in the grave today.
Simon, when I listen to you, I have a feeling that maybe one day you might have to find yourself in a different party, because you said that with absolute belief and passion, and I thank you for your call. And your texts and tweets are coming in. Nigel, the decision to leave was clear. She should have invoked Article 50 in the first few weeks, not at a snail's pace, says Lynn Smith. No, we have not passed the point of no return, but UKIP has. Brexiteers are narrow-minded nationalists to the core. We don't trust these sort of people. Labour is disgraceful, but at least they're trying to stop this now. That's from Daniel in Virginia Water. Thank you, Daniel, for that. And please don't blame Theresa May for the delay in Article 50. Blame Cameron and Osborne for leaving nothing for her to work with when they jumped ship, says Arthur in Brighton. Some truth, I think, in that, Arthur, because there was no plan B, because they never thought they could possibly ever lose that referendum. And lastly, isn't it funny how the EU are rejecting Donald Trump? They are running themselves into the ground. The more they reject democracy, the more they are hated, and that's from Michael Royer. That was certainly my experience, Michael, today, here in this place. I wonder, Richard, in Westmoreland, have we passed the point of no return? Are we leaving the European Union?
I think we're leaving the European Union, Nigel, but in inverted commas. And I say that because as much as you're doing the business over there behind enemy lines and creating a bit of a storm over there, which we're all very proud of you for doing, it just seems there are agents working for the EU on our side of the fence and in our parliament. And I'm talking about people like Nick Clegg, Ken Clarke, Paddy Ashdown. My only concern I've got, or well, one of the concerns I've got, is the ability of Theresa May and her government to be able to negotiate a good deal with us, whilst keeping the details of that deal out of the hands of the people that aren't working for us, aren't following the decision that the public instructed them to make, and they've still got their heads with the and hearts with the EU. It just seems the more I hear, Nick Clegg was on the was on LBC. I think
he was on with Nick Ferrari this morning, wasn't he? Yeah, I listened to it. And Nick seemed almost flabbergasted by some of his non-answers, didn't he? But you know, I mean, Clegg just does not accept this vote, does he? Well, I don't know. I get your point that maybe, even though we are going to vote, I think tonight in the House of Commons to say we're triggering Article 50, maybe the game is not completely over yet. And I understand that, Richard, and respect that. And I wonder what Paul in Barking thinks. Paul, good evening.
Hello, Nigel. Good evening. Congratulations on winning the referendum. I want to say to you, Nigel, that I profoundly disagreed with leaving the EU. I voted to remain. However, I am a Democrat over and above absolutely everything else. I believe in democracy, and you won, and I call upon other people in this country that voted to remain that the time for division is over. We should reunite as the United Kingdom, and we should leave. And Nigel, what that means is, I can tell you, I've been a Liberal Democrat. I've been active in the local Liberal Democrat Party, on and off. Yeah. I've actually resigned from the Liberal Democrats. I don't intend to vote Liberal Democrat again while Farron is there, because they don't respect democracy. And when you dispense with democracy, when you dispense with the ballot box, you get bullets and you get violence. I don't want bullets. I don't want violence. I don't want people to hurt each other. We lost. To everybody out there that voted to remain, we lost. Please, for the love of God and the love of our country, please accept it. Nigel, I respect you. I wish you well. And I salute your victory, right? But that's
Paul, I have to say that is, without doubt, the most touching call I've yet had on the Nigel Farage show. Somebody who is a sincere and genuine Democrat who accepts the results and wants us to come together. And Paul, I have absolutely nothing to add to what you've said, because it was so absolutely beautifully done, and I thank you very much indeed for that call. I wonder what Tim in Manchester thinks. Tim, are we leaving the European Union, and is the EU itself going to fall apart in the next couple of years?
I certainly hope so, Nigel. Absolutely.
Well, that's what Donald Trump wants, apparently.
And I agree with him entirely. Nigel, I met you 21 years ago when...
I always get nervous when people say this, Tim, but go on, tell me where it was.
Nothing untoward. You spent a bit of time going out with my mother, and you asked me to stand for an MEP.
Oh, right, OK.
Her name was Doris, and she lived in Sawbridgeworth, if you remember.
I do remember extremely well, Tim. Great stuff. And how is life?
You asked me to stand for an MEP, and I never understood. And I said to you, I never understood politics at the time. But I can tell you now, Mr. Farage, you are a champion of our country, and you are doing great things. But what do I do about my MEP, Jeff Smith? My MP, Jeff Smith, who's decided to vote Remain. What do I do tonight? He's voted against the invoking of Article 50. What do I do?
Well, I think the first thing you do is... Well, the first thing you do is write to him and tell him how disgusted you are. And you make sure your local newspaper and all your local radio stations and everyone you know, gets the fact that your MP has gone against the will of the people of this country, and either Either he gets deselected by his party, or the constituency makes sure next time round they get rid of him and they replace him with somebody else. How about that?
That's absolutely great, Nigel. I'm so empowered by what you've done. And 20 years later, I thank you for what you did to me 20 years ago. Because you know what's happened now is the best thing that's ever going to happen to this country. We're going to move it forward. And I reckon that it's all down to you and your relentless campaigning over the years. And I'm glad to help out anybody at the UKIP or yourselves or whatever, to especially remove this man that has disrespected 40, only it was 52-48 the other way with my constituency. But what are the 48 going to do here? Are they going to vote again for a Labour guy that's going to turn around and say no?
Well, I think he may have had his chips, Tim. And thank you for the call. You are a star. And I'm going to go quickly to John in Henley. John, what do you think?
Good evening, Nigel.
Good evening.
First of all, thank you very much for what you said in Brussels today. I applaud you.
Well, nobody else here did, John, let me tell you.
I certainly did. The people in Parliament this evening that have voted against invoking Article 50, I believe, should be barred from Parliament because they are not democratic. The referendum was a democratic vote which should be acknowledged. Why are they still allowed to be in Parliament?
Well, John, I'm going to take issue with you on this because I don't believe in barring people. I believe that the electorate will have their opportunity next time round in the general election, whether that's in 2020 or it could even be in May of this year, for all we know. I don't believe in barring people, but I do believe we should judge people on what they do. And I think this sort of fanaticism that we've heard from the Cleggs and the others for this European project that we as a country have rejected, and which I think is clear for all to see, actually isn't working terribly well around the rest of Europe too. I would rather than see them banned, I'd rather see them get voted out, John. How about that?
Yes, that makes sense, Nigel. That makes sense. I just wish democracy was stronger in this country, in Parliament.
Well, do you know what, John? We're going to make it stronger. And one of the great benefits of Brexit, in my view, is we will get back a sovereign parliament where the laws and the rules that affect our businesses and our lives will be voted on, debated in that chamber, open for us to see and debate here on LBC, rather than taking place in institutions like this where, frankly, almost no one notices. It was John Redwood, of all people, one of the most undemonstrative MPs I've ever seen. And John Redwood last night basically saying, make Parliament great again. So, John, be bullish, be confident. It is going to happen. Just depends on what terms. I wonder, and we're waiting, the results should be coming very shortly, but we've got time to go to Henry in us. Right, OK, we're going to go across now, live to the House of Commons, to get this crucial vote.
The ayes to the right, 498. The noes to the left, 114. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Unlock. Programme motion to be moved formally. Thank you. The question is as on the order paper. As many as are that have been say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. Division! Clear the lobby!
Right, so the second reading of the Brexit bill is there, and supporting the government there were 498 votes. Against the government were 114. That's a majority of 384. And what that means, folks, for those of you like John in Henley, what that means is you can put your pitchforks back in the garden shed because the House of Commons has held faith with the electorate and the referendum result. We will go on next week, perhaps, to a very frustrating time with further debate and with perhaps amendments being passed. But I do think that what has just happened and the results that you've just got live on this programme is a significant moment in the history of our nation. We are set on the right course. The question now is, what is the deal actually going to be? This is LBC, live from Brussels, on the Nigel Farage Show. It's 7:30, and it's time for the news with Moira Anderson.
And as you've just heard, MPs have voted in favour of a bill to support the government and allow the Prime Minister to trigger Article 50. We'll bring you more on that story as it comes in this evening. In tonight's other headlines, the United Nations Secretary-General says the US travel ban on 7 Muslim-majority countries should be lifted sooner rather than later. Antonio Guterres also says the policy isn't an effective way to stop potential terrorists entering America and violates basic principles. Tributes by the heads of Sainsbury's, Tesco and Asda have been made to Sir Ken Morrison, who's died at the age of 85. He turned a small Yorkshire-based family business into the UK's 4th largest supermarket operator. LBC weather, a windy but mild night ahead for most, some heavy rain after midnight, overnight low of 10 degrees.
This is LBC.
Hacksaw Ridge has been nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director Mel Gibson, and 3 BAFTAs, including Best Actor Andrew Garfield.
You don't kill. No, sir. You're a conscientious objector.
Mel Gibson brings you the extraordinary true story of the soldier who saved 75 men without lifting a gun. Critics are calling it a movie not to be missed. 5 stars. Hacksaw Ridge, in cinemas now, rated 15.
An amazing kitchen, an amazing bathroom, an amazing hallway. At Amazing Tiles, our range of porcelain, ceramic and bespoke tiles can make any home amazing. Right now, buy 5 metres or more of plain tiles and get a third off the retail price. Visit our showroom and warehouse at Park Royal Road, London, or call 0208 83 84 900. Make your home amazing at amazingtiles.com.
Do you have a pension? Maybe you've got more than one. How do you know if they're in the right pension funds, making as much money as possible for your retirement? Answer is, you probably don't. At The Pension Works, our fully qualified independent financial advisors could add instant value to your retirement fund. Simply text the word YES to 83222 for your free Pension Works health check. That's YES to 83222 today. Your pensions working harder with The Pension Works.
And now the weather. There's a bitterly cold spell heading for the Johnson house, starting in the boiler cupboard, spreading rapidly north throughout the house, culminating in the shower at around 7:30 a.m. Just when Mr. Johnson steps in.
Boiler past its sell-by date? Right now, Swale Heating has lots of finance deals on new boilers. Plus, we offer a 7-year warranty on all our Vaillant and Worcester Bosch models. To find out more, visit swaleheating.com today. Rely on us to keep you warm.
Divorce. It threatens the things you've worked hard for in more ways than you can imagine. Your home, savings, pension, and most of all, your relationship with your children. Don't let divorce cost you any more than it has to. Cordell & Cordell is dedicated to helping men in matters relating to divorce. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordellcordell.co.uk. Office in central London. A partner men can count on.
This is LBC, live from Brussels, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Our members of Parliament have backed legislation to give the Prime Minister permission to push on and to trigger Article 50. Yes, there'll be some debate and some amendments next week. Yes, it has to go to the House of Lords, but believe me, if they try to stop it, they'd be voting for their own abolition. I'm expecting that the government timetable of March the 9th to trigger Article 50, it looks to me now to be on course. And then I think things here in this building, in the European Parliament, will probably erupt. We've done it, a majority of 384. I'm happy that it's happened. I feel it was unnecessary, but it's done. But I wonder, what is it we're actually leaving? You know, Britain leaving the European Union, maybe that has implications for the world, for Europe. It certainly does for us, I think good ones. But what is this European Union that we are actually leaving? And I just want to play you, again if I can, a little clip of the events that took place in this European Parliament this afternoon.
And pure discrimination in a more broader approach, but because it's not only about this religious ban. It's about, fueling populism and nationalism for the moment, what the Trump administration is doing. And that's not only by appointing Mr. Farage as his spokesman here in the plenary, but it's also by having the idea to designate Malloch as the ambassador. And more important, let's be aware of that, Steve Bannon, member now of the National Security Council of the United States of America, a man who is openly saying we want a worldwide right-wing movement to get rid of the European Union.
It is the unelected Commission that have the sole right to propose legislation. If I'm wrong in saying that, you can throw me out of this Parliament right here, right now.
Mr. Farage, I am just asking you to be a little bit more respectful, please.
Oh, I'll be respectful, all right. And perhaps you will be too, for the right of the leader of a political party that won the European elections in the United Kingdom in 2014. Perhaps what we need to do is to be a little bit more constructive. All of us here say we're Democrats. Well, here's a chance to prove it. Let us invite President Trump to come here to this European Parliament. So let's remind ourselves that we have elections in the Netherlands coming up in March. We have the French presidential elections in 2 rounds in April and May. We have the German elections coming up in September, and we have Italy in a pretty chaotic state. Do you know, wherever you go within this European Union, in the other 27 countries, what you see are the growth of opposition parties. Some on the right, some on the left, some in the centre. But I'm going to put it to you, I think the European Union itself has passed the point of no return. If you think this EU actually is working and is a success, please call me, please ring me, 0345 60 60 973. Your texts and tweets coming in on the back of that result. As ever, the moral minority claim the high ground, but are much more intolerant than those they criticise and look down on. That's Bob in Peterborough. Nigel, the Ramonas keep delaying Brexit. I wonder if the EU is in some way funding it. It's in their interest to do so. Tom in Basingstoke. Greedy spivs and their gang of loony associates are going to halt Brexit any possible way they can. Richard in Chelsea. Well, Richard, I think they've just taken a kicking in the last few minutes. At least I hope they have. And another tweet to me, well done to the Remainer who just rang into the show. Democracy over policy. I can't fathom that, but there you are. Those who are voting against SNP accepted simply want bragging rights every time something negative happens, re Brexit. So your texts and tweets chunking in, but I need to ask, and he's been waiting a long time, because I was about to go to Henry in Battersea when we crossed to the House of Commons. So Henry, thank you for your patience. Have we passed the point of no return? Has indeed the European Union passed the point of no return? Is it done for, Henry?
Well, interesting. As far as the past, I think your team should not put their pitchforks away, because it is possible that Article 50 can be revoked. It is not, well, the lawyers don't know, but it's perfectly possible that we could withdraw our leaving. And one of the reasons for doing that would be that if Europe changes as much as you think it might, then we might be able to renegotiate a position within the European Union, which would still meet all our requirements, because there will have been so much change within the Union itself, which is why it's important to know that we might possibly be able to revoke the decision to leave. So it's not over yet by a long way, I'm afraid.
Henry, let me just tell you, and Guy Verhofstadt, who leads the Liberal group here in this Parliament, and you heard him appointing me virtually as Trump's ambassador. It was very sweet of him, it's not true. But Guy Verhofstadt was on LBC in London yesterday morning, being interviewed by Matt Fry. And Matt put to him, look, with all these huge problems that the European Union faces, with these electoral threats coming up in France and Italy and Germany and elsewhere, surely the European Union needs to decentralise and give power back to the people. And the Verhofstadt answer is no. We have to actually make this a stronger, more centralised federation. Henry, I have been here now for getting on 18 years. I can scarcely believe I just said that, but it's true. And Henry, I'll tell you, these people would rather sink with the ship than give up on their idea of a European political project. And there may well be, during this next couple of years, there may well be, Henry, considerable chaos within the European Union, but the idea the EU is going to reform or change into something that we can even consider membership of, I think is a pretty long shot. So, Henry, I think we have to go with Article 50 as long as we can, and if they do mess us around, then perhaps we just have to say, I'm sorry, guys, we're leaving.
Can I just say, the democratic point, just because you won by a narrow majority, that's first past the post democracy. A lot of countries have a democracy where you require a two-thirds majority in order to change the constitution. So don't say the British people have spoken. The British people have spoken with two voices, and it's absolutely wrong to suggest that in some way it's undemocratic. We should accept the simple majority. That is not how most democracies work. Simple majoritarianism is not the same as democracy, and it's very demeaning and offensive of you to support those who say it is. Thank you.
Well, Henry, thank you for your point, said with great passion, but the reason we had a referendum on this is that our own political parties were so split, divided, threatened on this issue that they, for once, contracted that decision back out to us, the people. And Henry, the good news is that whilst I would accept 52-48 wasn't overwhelming, it is now clearly, from the calls, the texts, the tweets and everything else that we've been getting over the last few weeks, clearly that margin is now considerably bigger than it was then. And I wonder...
You've invented that. That's a typical Brexit invention. You have no idea. In fact, the likely majority is soft Brexit plus Remainers. You've just invented that, Nigel. It's what you do. That's outrageous. The reality is the country was split down the middle. And still is.
No, Henry, I accept that on June the 23rd, last year, that was the situation. What I'm saying to you, if you do listen to this show or follow on Facebook or whatever it is, there are every single day significant numbers of people who contact this show, and we had Paul, very passionately earlier, and let me tell you, and Henry, let me tell you,
Nigel, that's naughty.
Well, I tell you what I'll do. I'll also quote you, YouGov, and all the other polling organisations who show that when Theresa May said a couple of weeks ago, we're leaving the single market, and people were shocked, by a majority of 51 to 36, people agreed with leaving the single market. So, Henry, the war is over. The referendum is done. Article 50 has gone through. But I tell you what, I'd love to meet you for...
You are, I tell you.
I'd love to meet you for a drink, because it would be enormous fun. Henry, thank you very much. Right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show live here from Brussels, exclusively on LBC, and it's 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
The Brexit vote is in, and triggering Article 50 gets the go-ahead. But when should that happen? And will we really have left the EU 2 years later?
Clive Bull on LBC.
eBay has every kind of car part for everyone from beginners to the real experts.
Well, that should stop them squeaking.
Brake pads.
And that's the engine sorted.
Motor oil.
And that's the handling taken care of.
Alloys and tyres.
And that means I've saved myself a few quid.
12-foot snooker table for the spare room. Shop eBay's unbeatable selection of car parts and accessories. The ultimate fix the car like a hero shop.
La La Land is the most acclaimed film at this year's BAFTAs, with an incredible 11 nominations. It's the most awarded film in Golden Globe history, and now has an outstanding 14 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture of the Year. It's the film that critics are raving about. A masterpiece, says The Guardian. They just don't make films like this anymore, says the Evening Standard. 5 stars from The Times and The Telegraph. Don't miss it on the big screen. La La Land, in cinemas now.
The new Vauxhall Mokka X is absolutely 100% about you. Your music streamed, your devices connected with 4G Wi-Fi, and it's yours to drive for just $239 a month with advance rental. The sportier, bolder new Vauxhall Mokka X. It's your life. Go drive it. Search Mocha X offers. Personal contract hire offer on Mocha X Active 1.4 turbo manual front-wheel drive in metallic paint. Advance rental 3346 plus 35 months at 239. Excess miles over contracted mileage of 24,000 over 36 months at 7.3 pence per mile. You will not own the car. Wi-Fi requires OnStar activation available as standard on selected models. 4G coverage limited. T's and C's apply. Register before the 1st of April 2017.
Do you have a pension? Maybe you've got more than one. How do you know if they're in the right pension funds, making as much money as possible for your retirement? Answer is, you probably don't. At the Pension Works, our fully qualified independent financial advisors could add instant value to your retirement fund. Simply text the word YES to 83222 for your free Pension Works health check. That's YES to 83222 today. Your pensions working harder with the Pension Works.
What is the only bird that can fly backwards? What's the name for a fear of cheese? What are the pieces of paper from a hole punch called?
If you know, you have exceptional general knowledge. But at Hiscox, our insurance experts have chosen small business as their specialist subject. That's why more than 200,000 UK businesses rely on us to help provide the right cover. Hiscox, business insurance for the small and the brave.
And the answers: A, the hummingbird, B, turophobia, C, chads.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Brussels, only on LBC.
If you're just tuning in, members of Parliament have voted overwhelmingly to allow the Prime Minister to trigger Article 50 and to begin the Brexit negotiations. Good. And I think in doing that, we probably have passed the point of no return. And here in Brussels, a day of heat and anger and vitriol, because they thought Brexit was bad news. They view Trump as a catastrophe, as a man that wants to bring down the project. And I'm asking you tonight, actually, has the European Union project itself passed the point of no return? I have to say, every country across this union sees a huge growth in Eurosceptic parties of the left and centre and right. And what I saw today was some very, very upset, scared, angry people. After all, life's pretty good here, you know. I mean, the food's cheap. Every MEP has a chauffeur-driven car. Great pensions. What's not to like? Gary in Malden, have we passed the point of no return?
Yeah, I think we probably have, Nigel, unfortunately, and I think that's a great shame. You bang on, yeah, I do. You bang on week in, week out about democracy, about the will of the people. But if it was 48-52 the other way, and when you were saying before the referendum that might not be a majority, would you still be banging on about the will of the people then? And would you let it go?
No point, Gary, because Parliament actually regretted bitterly giving the peasants a vote in this referendum, and the chances of us getting a second go would have been absolutely negligible for many, many years to come. And what we've seen is a 52-48 margin in a very hard-fought referendum. That margin now considerably wider, Gary, in all the opinion polls. And you know, this is going to happen. Yeah, there'll be a debate on the terms. But Gary, tell me, what is it about the European Union that you think's good?
Well, what's not good about it, Nigel? At the moment, before this referendum, we had financial security, we had a strong pound, we had the City of London secure as the leading financial centre for Europe. Now it's all about to fall apart. And that might be all right for you, but it's not all right for people like me. I've worked for American banks. I'm now working for another big American company. All of a sudden, investment in the UK doesn't look so good for them. Thanks to
Gary,
banging the drum and going,
Gary,
52% at the will of the people.
Gary, I'm really sorry, mate, and I'm going to upset you now, but actually, foreign and direct investment for the figures that we have so far for last year is 3 times the level that it was the year before. So, Gary, actually, people are investing in Britain from all over the world. And you say, what's wrong with the European Union? The Eurozone's a catastrophe. We have youth unemployment rates of nearly 50% in some southern countries. We have the rise of extremism of right and left everywhere, and a project, frankly, that is virtually bust, both morally and financially. So, Gary, I'm thrilled we're getting out, and I'm not scared. I know you are, but I'm not scared. But thank you for your call. Texts and tweets coming in. Nigel, yeah, we are past the point of no return. Good work, my old son. I'm behind you and the Donald all the way. Brendan in Northern Ireland. Hooray, the end of neoliberalism, the end of the lovey-dovey set. Back to basics, back to the real world. Article 50 has been triggered. Thank you from Francesca. I got a tweet here. If you believe in democracy, why do you want a job in government as you haven't been elected? Well, Tufton, thank you, mate. But, I've got a job. I'm leading Britain's biggest political party here in this European Parliament, and I'm going to see it through right to the end, however much they hate me. Martin in Leicester. Martin, have we passed the point of no return? Has the European project, is it all going to come to a disastrous end?
Hello, Mr. Farage. Yeah, I do believe we have. To be fair, we should have left way back when the actual voice of the people was there. We voted out, and we've got to vote out. We had to get out. I mean, to be honest, I'm from the 16 to 24 age range, and the fact that 36% of us only bothered to go out and vote, and with it mainly being a Remain, it really is a shock. How much hurt there is towards people that, we should be thankful at our age that we live in a country that allows us to vote, that allows us to have this freedom of democracy that so many people in so many different countries do not have. And for them to kind of always want it their way to, with the whole, we've had to have the whole thing tonight to go through government, to go through the parliament. It's shocking that democracy is not being enforced in that respect.
It's a very odd thing, Martin. It's a very odd thing because, as you say, the engagement in the United Kingdom of young people to vote at all is low. And of those that did vote in the referendum, a very clear majority, big majority, voted for us to remain. And yet, when I talked about the growth of Eurosceptic movements across the rest of the continent, what you'll find is those parties are being fueled by under 40s and in many cases actually under 30s. So it's the youth in the European Union who are beginning to get engaged, beginning to vote, beginning to reject the project, and yet in the UK we're the other way around. Is it what they teach you at school, Martin? Is that what it is, possibly?
No, to be honest, I actually voted to leave. I
know you did. But I'm asking, were you taught from the age of 5 that the EU had stopped all war and it was wonderful?
Oh yeah, completely. It was like the big peace breaker after World War II, which I honestly do not understand how that even came about. That it was the big peace breaker, but honestly, we voted out. We need to leave. We've left. Just leave it.
We haven't quite left, Martin, but we're on our way, and you're a young rebel, and you're a very good chap, and thank you. Just looking at the votes in the House of Commons, who are the people that opposed the referendum result? Well, there are 47 Labour MPs that have done so, 1 Conservative. Good old Ken Clarke. You can always rely on Ken. 7 Liberal Democrats, 50 SNP, 3 SDLP from Northern Ireland, and 1 Green, a Green who used to call herself a Eurosceptic. And I would suggest there are no great shocks there. We all expected Tim Farron to do everything to keep us within the European Union. We all knew that Ken Clarke would stick to his principles, and I love Ken's consistency. He has been consistently wrong about this now for nearly 60 years. He was never going to change, but I put it to you that the Labour Party is very, very badly split on this issue and has some very serious problems. Phil in Cobham. Phil, have we passed the point of no return, and is the European project in deep trouble?
Well, I don't believe we passed the point of no return, Nigel, but I would agree that the European project is in deep trouble. But I've got to be honest, I'm a committed Remainer. I campaigned heavily on the streets. And one thing I would say, Nigel, regarding the referendum, at least, I'm being totally honest, at least 10% of the people I spoke to when I was campaigning voted purely as a protest vote against Cameron. And so you put that into the equation. I spoke to other friends of mine who also did it, and they got a similar score. So I really think, the referendum result, for the reasons you articulated very clearly, in that interview with the Mirror, I think it was, you wouldn't accept a 52-42 split, a 48 split. You would only accept a 70-30 split. And most constitutions, when you change the constitution, you do require a qualified majority for the very good reason. Well, no, for the very good reason that those who want to change a constitution are more committed.
No, Phil, I get all of that. And isn't it a shame that all those years ago we were taken into the common market, the EEC, on what was a complete and utter lie? And it was. My parents' generation thought it's okay, it's not going to hurt us. My final thought on this is, I've been teasing all night that with this vote, it's a great historic day, we've passed the point of no return, and so has the European Union. I have to say, I don't really quite believe it, because whilst it all feels good and looks good, we've got one heck of a long way to go, and there are very big, powerful forces behind this project, and I'm talking about big business and big banks, and many amongst our establishment who will defend the European project to the end. I hope we've seen the last of them, but I'm not sure. I promise you no complacency from me. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, live here from Brussels. I'm back tomorrow evening from 7 in London. Coming up at 10